You've heard it proclaimed, every being has Buddha nature. You've chanted that enlightenment is not reserved for saints, but promised to every child, every criminal, every insect. And yet, look around. How many truly awaken? Is the path truly open to all, or is radical equality a sublime myth? I'm Silent Flame. Today, we confront the gulf between doctrine and destiny. Can any of us really become a Buddha, or do hidden barriers keep awakening an elite prize? In sutras and shastras, the Buddha lays down a stunning egalitarian vision. No soul is excluded from the summit of awakening. But what does theory say, and how do we experience it? Buddha Nature Sutras, Lankavatara. Sutra. All sentient beings possess the Buddha seed. Tathagatagarbha doctrine, enlightenment, hidden like gold in mud, inevitable if uncovered. Democratization of Dharma, monastic, and lay alike invited to train. No caste, no gender barrier in principle. Bodhisattva vows open to any practitioner. I will awaken for the sake of all beings. Modern reform movements. Western teachers emphasize universal potential, offering mindfulness to boardrooms and prisons alike. Socially engaged sanghas proclaim liberation as both personal and collective right. The face in the mirror. Yet lived practice often tells another story. Teachers subtly gatekeep advanced teachings. Novices lament long retreats with little insight. Veterans fear stagnation behind doctrine's high walls. The map says everyone, but the climb looks daunting. Where do we begin to expose the hidden crevasses? Despite the slogan, Buddha Nature for All, many traditions guard their deepest methods behind secret doors. Lineage transmission. Only those empowered by a qualified teacher receive certain teachings, ritual empowerment, or abhiseka. Without that blessing, advanced meditations or tantric practices remain off limits. Initiation, fees and vows. Some lineages require costly retreats or lifetime vows, financial or ethical commitments that many cannot fulfill. Poverty, family obligations, or social constraints effectively bar entry. Esoteric versus exoteric teachings. Exoteric sutras are widely available. Esoteric instructions circulate only in cloistered communities. Doctrine warns against premature practice, but often this gatekeeping serves institutional power more than practitioner safety. Cultural and linguistic barriers. Ancient texts in Pali, Sanskrit, Tibetan, or Chinese demand translation and contextualization. Western students face the language gap, relying on a handful of fluent teachers to interpret, further consolidating authority. The path may be universal, but the keys to its doors are jealously held. Who gets to unlock Buddha's chamber, and who stays outside? A quieter, but no less potent barrier is the inner voice whispering, "I'm not worthy." Imposter syndrome in practice. Practitioners compare their shaky concentration and mundane thoughts to idealized enlightenment stories, concluding they'll never measure up. Shadow of the teacher. The revered master's presence can intimidate students into self-censorship. Fearful to reveal struggles or ask stupid questions. Perfectionism and burnout. The drive to attain progress markers, hours logged, retreats completed, feeds a perfectionist loop, leading to exhaustion rather than insight. Social comparison. In sanghas and online forums, tales of sudden breakthroughs become benchmarks, eclipsing the validity of slow, steady practice. These inner obstacles reinforce the illusion that awakening is a rare feat reserved for champions, not ordinary seekers. The promise of universal enlightenment collides with the realities of money, status, and birthplace. Economic gatekeepers, lengthy retreats, one-on-one mentorships, sacred pilgrimages, all cost thousands. Those with thinner wallets miss crucial transmission moments. Monastic life may offer refuge, but entry often demands sponsorship or relinquishing family support. Luxuries not everyone can afford. Gendered access. In some traditions, full ordination remains unavailable to women, e.g., certain Vinaya lineages. Nuns may practice decades without equal teaching authority or resources. Cultural assumptions about women's roles, caretakers, mothers, limit retreat length and the intensity of practice. Urban versus rural divide. Major cities host renowned centres. Rural areas rely on volunteers or isolated teachers, if any. Practitioners in remote regions face sporadic instruction and lack peer support. Digital outreach helps, but internet access and tech literacy still leave many behind. Caste, ethnicity, and nationality. In South Asia, caste history colours access. Some communities still hesitate to share monastic facilities with lower castes. Western converts may be welcomed as modern pioneers, while traditional seekers in their homelands struggle for seats at the shrine. Language and literacy. Major lineages publish in dominant languages, English, Mandarin, sidelining minority tongues. Literacy itself, mapping complex philosophy, becomes a barrier. The path may say all are equal, but society's hierarchies carve deep furrows in the soil of practice. Yet history also brims with those who defied every boundary, demonstrating that determination, grace, and allyship can penetrate the fortress. The Dalit monk who translated the Pali Canon, born into India's untouchable caste, he learned secretly, walked hundreds of miles to distant monasteries, and eventually published vernacular translations, shattering both textual and social barriers. The female Roshi in the West denied full ordination in her home country. She immigrated, trained in a Soto lineage that embraced women fully, then returned to teach dozens of aspiring nuns, creating a new network of female practice. The Rural Farmers Mindfulness Collective. Without funds for formal retreats, a group of impoverished rice farmers formed their own Sangha, rotating hosting duties, sharing basic texts, and inviting visiting teachers who offered sliding scale fees. The Refugee Youth's Virtual Dharma Project, uprooted by conflict. A teenager built an online meditation portal in her native tongue, reaching thousands in refugee camps. A testament to technology leveraged for radical inclusion. Intersectional allyship. In each story, allies, senior teachers, community patrons, lay supporters played pivotal roles, offering stipends, sponsoring ordination, granting translation privileges, and publicizing marginalized voices. These seekers didn't wait for permission. They became catalysts for systemic change, proving that Buddha nature cannot be locked behind any door. Suffering can be a barrier, yet paradoxically, it can ignite the very confidence needed to break through. Suffering as obstacle, chronic illness, loss, or trauma sap energy, making the rigorous demands of practice feel impossible. When survival consumes all resources, the luxury of sustained meditation slips away. Turning point, the dark night. Yet many practitioners describe a nada, an abyss of despair, that becomes the crucible for awakening. Stripped of illusions, they discover an unshakable aspiration. If I survive this, I will know the truth. Confidence, Shraddha, as fuel. Shraddha Faith or confidence grounded in direct experience arises when one sees even a glimmer of insight in the ashes of suffering. It is not blind belief, but fearless trust born of personal proof. When trials sharpen, not shatter, hardship can bubble up hidden determination. A lay healer who lost everything in a flood returned to retreat and vowed, "This time I will not be driven away by pain." That resolution catalyzed her first breakthrough. Balance, avoiding both complacency and overwhelm. Too little suffering, too much comfort, practice can stagnate. Too much suffering, and the mind snaps. The path requires both challenge and refuge, forging confidence without collapse. Suffering does not guarantee awakening, but when met with mindful confidence, it can become the forge of Buddha nature. Are Buddhas born or made? Many think only extraordinary individuals attain full awakening, but genuine examples show otherwise. Everyday awakeners in the Pali Canon, lay people like Sita, the householder, and Visakha, attain deep insight without monastic robes, balancing family life and practice. Modern teachers who were once ordinary, Asian farmers, Western engineers, single parents, ordinary practitioners who reported clear awakenings after decades of mundane occupations. The trap of exceptionalism, idolizing rare geniuses, discourages self. I'm not a Sita or a Milarepa, so enlightenment isn't for me. This myth deepens the chasm between doctrine and lived possibility. Awakening not as universal process. Awakening unfolds in degrees: sober clarity, boundless compassion, equanimity. Every practitioner can taste these qualities today, regardless of status, practicing like everyone else. The antidote is simple. Stop waiting for a sign. Sit, breathe, observe. Recognize that each moment of presence is the same path walked by Buddhas and householders alike. Full Buddhahood may look rare, but the first steps of awakening are accessible to every being. No miracles required. If formal rank and privilege can block access, then the true equalizer is the mind training anyone can do, regardless of status, wealth, or background. Foundations of shamatha, calm abiding. Universal entry point. Simple focus on the breath. No initiation required, just a chair or cushion. Regular sessions of 10 to 20 minutes build the neural capacity for concentration, dissolving the sense that only advanced practitioners can stabilize attention. Vipassana, insight, practices for all. The noting technique, label sensations, emotions, and thoughts as they arise, thinking, feeling, hearing. This method was taught directly to lay practitioners in the Sutta Pitaka. It requires no secret mantra or transmission, only clear instruction and personal diligence. Metta Bhavana, loving kindness. The great equalizer generating goodwill towards self, loved ones, neutral parties, and even adversaries. Accessible to anyone, regardless of lineage. Scientific studies show this practice increases empathy and resilience, bridging gaps between ordained and lay, rich and poor. Walking meditation and everyday mindfulness, turning ordinary activities, washing dishes, walking to work, into formal practice. Democratic access, no retreat center needed. Anyone can transform daily life into the path, erasing the barrier between practice time and real life. Community-driven study groups, peer-led Dharma circles meeting in homes, libraries, or cafes. Members read basic suttas or foundational texts, discuss meaning, and share challenges. These groups bypass institutional gatekeeping, democratizing scriptural study and interpretation. Digital offerings with integrity-free or donation-based online courses from reputable teachers who explicitly waive paywalls for core practices. Open source meditation apps that provide guided sessions without demanding upgrade fees. Tools to equalize access across geographies and incomes. When practice is designed for every human heart and brain, the purported elitism of awakening evaporates, leaving only the universal invitation to look within. Even the most solitary meditation hinges on a network of support, practical, emotional, and ethical structures that uphold every seeker's potential. Mentorship beyond titles. Senior practitioners offering guidance through informal mentorship rather than rigid teacher-student hierarchies. This flattens power dynamics and nurtures individual growth. Peer accountability partnerships, dyads, or small triads commit to regular check-ins, sharing practice logs, discussing obstacles, reminding each other of intentions. This mutual encouragement simulates the traditional monastic sangha's interdependence without exclusive ordination. Accessible retreat models, sliding scale, work exchange, and community-sponsored retreats that waive fees for those in financial hardship. Co-housing models where participants contribute labor, cooking, cleaning, gardening in lieu of high lodging costs. Trauma-informed care in sanghas, incorporating basic psychological first aid and referral pathways within practice communities so that individuals with traumatic backgrounds are supported rather than sidelined. Cultural inclusivity forums, regular open mic events where practitioners from diverse backgrounds share how culture shapes their Dharma journey, fostering empathy and dismantling unconscious biases. Global solidarity networks, cross-regional alliances connecting rural and urban sanghas via video link, resource sharing, and joint projects, ensuring isolated practitioners are never truly alone. The Buddha said the sangha is the greatest field of merit. When community structures honor dignity and equity, they become the bedrock on which every being's Buddha nature can flourish. We champion accessible practices, but even universal methods can unintentionally magnify privilege if we're not vigilant. Time poverty versus practice. Time. Just sit 20 minutes a day. Sounds simple until you juggle shift work, childcare, and bills. Those with flexible schedules gain consistency, while others scrape minutes between obligations, reinforcing the gap. Cultural resonance versus alienation. Guided meditations often use references, mountain hermitages, Zen garden imagery that feel distant to many cultural backgrounds. When practice contexts don't resonate, engagement wanes and confidence dwindles. Language of right effort. The exhortation to diligently cultivate can sound like moral imperatives, privileging those socialized into self-discipline and structured learning, while clashing with communal or spontaneous cultures. Access to qualified feedback online forums and apps provide generic guidance, but nuanced corrections often require an experienced mentor. This creates tiers. Those who can afford private tutoring progress faster. Others plateau unwittingly. Physical ability and inclusivity. Emphasis on prolonged sitting or specific postures. Sidelines practitioners with injuries, disabilities, or age-related limitations. Without adaptive options, these bodies internalize, "I'm not cut out for awakening." To uphold true equality, we must interrogate not just who gets the teachings, but how the form and delivery of practice honor every body, schedule, and culture. The promise that anyone can awaken gains credibility when we witness diverse faces on the path. Role models across demographics. Visible teachers from varied genders, ethnicities, ages, and socio-economic backgrounds inspire confidence. If they can awaken, so can I. Lack of representation breeds doubt and disengagement. Narratives of ordinary awakening. Sharing stories of students who balance work, family, and Dharma counters the myth that only recluses or monks attain insight. These testimonies demystify the journey. Localized expressions of practice, community-led adaptations, folk chants, local languages, region-specific metaphors embody awakening within cultural frames. They signal that Dharma isn't foreign doctrine, but a living, breathing path in every land. Mentorship that mirrors lived experience. Mentors who share life stage affinities, working parents, aging practitioners, neurodiverse members, offer tailored guidance that resonates on a personal level, collapsing the distance between teacher and student. Inclusive teaching platforms, podcasts, social media channels, and local gatherings spotlight underrepresented voices. Platform diversity ensures seekers find mirrors for their own circumstances and pathways forward. Representation isn't decoration. It's proof that Buddha nature blooms in all soils, not just in hallowed monastic groves. Legal and organizational frameworks can either prop open the gate to awakening or bolt it shut. Here's how communities can dismantle systemic obstacles. Scholarship and subsidy programs. Formalizing funds for retreat scholarships, monastic sponsorships, and study grants ensures that costs never precludes genuine seekers. Transparency in application and distribution builds trust and broadens access. Institutional diversity mandates sanghas and retreat centers can adopt clear diversity policies. Targets for gender parity, ethnic representation, and socio-economic inclusion in leadership roles. Regular audits hold institutions accountable. Collaborative networks with NGOs, partnering with social justice and human rights organizations, embeds Dharma practice within community development. Projects like mindfulness in prisons or schools create entry points for those traditionally marginalized. Accessible infrastructure designing practice spaces with ramps, quiet rooms, flexible seating, and sensory accommodations invites practitioners with disabilities or neurodivergent needs, transforming exclusion into genuine welcome. Policy advocacy for mindfulness in public sectors. Advocating for meditation programs in public hospitals, correctional facilities, and shelters normalizes practice as a universal right. When governments endorse equitable access, barriers begin to crumble. Structural change requires more than goodwill. It demands concrete policies that embed equality into the very bones of our communities. In the face of institutional or societal barriers, the ultimate sanctuary is the inner refuge. Steadfast trust in one's own Buddha nature. Daily affirmations of potential, simple phrases. I too am Buddha nature. My practice matters. Repeated each morning, counter the creeping doubt sown by external voices. Consistency rewrites neural patterns of self-worth. Reflective journaling on progress. Documenting daily insights, however small, creates a tangible record of growth. Revisiting entries during challenging periods reminds practitioners of their evolving capacity and quiet victories. Anchoring in direct experience. Regular micro practices, pausing to note a breath, feeling the body's aliveness. Ground faith in the immediacy of experience rather than abstract promises. This embodied trust becomes unshakable. Mentor letters and legacy dialogues. Writing to one's future self or to a chosen mentor, articulates aspirations and fears. These letters, read periodically, reinforce the continuity of practice across time and personal challenges, cultivating compassion for self-doubt. When voices of not enough arise, meet them with loving kindness directed inward. May I recognize my own potential without shame. This self-compassion neutralizes internalized gatekeepers. The inner refuge is neither escape nor denial. It is a proactive temple of self-trust that no external barrier can breach. We've surveyed doctrine, decoded hidden gates, explored socioeconomic and psychological barriers, and mapped practices and policies that widen the path. Now, let's weave those threads into an actionable framework that makes radical equality more than a slogan. Tiered access architecture, open foundations, free public offerings, short guided sites, basic texts, introductory talks. Ensure every newcomer finds a foothold. Structured pathways, progressive courses with optional support, mentors, small fees, scholarships. Guide those ready to deepen while preserving open entry. Advanced streams, reserved for committed practitioners who volunteer or contribute. These maintain integrity without imposing on beginners. Intersectional oversight councils composed of representatives across gender, caste, class, ability, and geography monitor inclusion metrics, retreat participation, teaching roles, resource distribution, and report annually to the community. Adaptive curriculum design practices offered in modular formats, audio, text, movement, cater to diverse learning styles and life circumstances. Cultural advisors co-create localized materials, ensuring relevance and respect. Embedded allyship networks, pairing privileged practitioners with marginalized peers for reciprocal support. Financial sponsorship matched with skill sharing or mentorship creates solidarity across divides. Continual feedback loops, quarterly equity forums, where any member can propose improvements to access, curriculum, or policy. Community votes and transparent implementation plans turn feedback into change. Radical equality is not a one-time fix, but an evolving ecosystem, designed, monitored, and renewed by every being it serves. All the policies, practices, and ideals we've discussed must converge in lived experience. True equality isn't just written on charters. It's felt in each gesture, each invitation, each moment of shared awakening. Practice as proof. Test every framework by experiencing it. Attend a sliding scale retreat, lead a peer circle, translate a text. Real equality shows itself in action. Radical hospitality. Treat every newcomer, regardless of background, as a reflection of your own Buddha nature. Small acts of welcome break the largest barriers. Persistent humility. Recognize that access gaps will shift over time. Stay curious about hidden exclusions and be ready to dismantle outdated safeguards. Collective ownership. Remember that liberation is not a private trophy, but a communal legacy. Share your insights, resources, and authority freely. Live the promise. When you encounter impossible obstacles, economic, cultural, personal, let your own determination and compassion prove otherwise. In the end, the question isn't, can any of us become a Buddha? It's, will we build a world where every heart can try? If your answer is yes, then share the path, widen the gate, and walk together.